Talking about, the game overall, you love the way the team came out defensively, getting the pick six there. What a great play by Cody to energize, the stadium, get the team rolling. And then shortly thereafter, Jim continues to do what he's been doing all year long. And it's great when you see things like that, when Bones and Stu talked all week long to everybody about, just making one or two more blocks, taking these guys out of the game and what Jim could possibly do. So 2 big plays to energize the football team, the fans and everything, and playing complementary football. But there's as the game went on, there's just some little things throughout in all phases that we've got to do better to find a way. We've got to score there on the 1 yard line. That's something you have 2 opportunities down there. You got to run it in. And we got to do a better job executing down there. And then obviously you can't turn around and let a team go 99 yards on you. That's a huge swing in the game. So that's something we got to learn from. We got to execute better, and you got to score when you have that opportunity. So with that being said, the other thing I'll mention also is the defense with the 6 sacks. That's outstanding. We talked about that going into the game, how we could take advantage of some things up front, how we needed to dominate and get after the quarterback. Give the defense a number of guys over there, give Denard, all those guys credit for the way they played. And it's not always the guys rushing, but on the back end to allow us to get there. So that was another good thing.
On 4th and 1, was there a crease for Tony to the right, or was that thing just closed it off?
Are you talking the defense's right or to the left? Because we were designed to go to the we wanted the ball go to the left.
Yeah.
Wanted to go to the left and follow the guard.
So he was just following where it was supposed to be.
Yep.
Also on that play, sorry, Paul. Also on that play, was there any sort of option because as Cam peeled off after making the handoff, if he had the football, he could have walked in on the bootleg.
No, we were handing the ball off on that play. But we do have that, and every team in the league, has certain plays a quarterback keeps the ball and do certain things, whether it's a movement pass design, things like that. But no, we were handing the ball off there.
Can you explain the philosophy behind direct snap if you don't have a big, rugged, physical back there? You're telling them you're running it automatically by giving it directly to the back. What's the benefit?
Well, I think, anytime you go into a game plan, you run your core plays and you change formations, and having a direct snap is one of those options. And unfortunately, they didn't work. And that's it. You go into the plan, you see, okay, as you go into it, you say, hey, this is what we want to do, and we got to execute better. And there's one of the plays in there, definitely, that as coaches, we got to do a better job putting our players in a better position to do certain things. So we're all in this thing together. We can execute better, we can coach better, and put our players in a better position.
How do you assess Cam's day?
There was the ups and downs of the game. There's some really good plays, and then there's a couple plays in there you wish you could say, hey, we got to do a better job here. We got to, be able to make this throw, convert it. But then there's some plays in there you say, wow, that's pretty damn good. So there's the ups and the downs. We need to be more consistent.
Do you need to see a little more consistency of more ups? You had a pretty good week in Indianapolis a week ago,
Yeah.
but at this point, now 9 games in, do you need to see a little bit more of the flash and consistency from Cam than you have?
There's always going to be the ups and downs of games. That's every game you're playing. There are definitely a couple of those plays that I think if you ask Cam too, he'd say, I need to make those plays. But I think also I'll look at the entire game. We got to help him. And when I say that, you can't, you can't drop a ball to start the game off. We got to be able to say, hey, protection at certain times. So it's everybody involved. It's not just Cam. Everybody, he could do some things better. He'll tell you that. And I think, but as an entire offense, we could all play better.
What's your advice for Cam specifically on the week off?
Well, we're going to sit down. I'm going to talk with him later today and talk about what we need to do moving forward, and how, and I'll keep that between us. But there's going to be things I'll sit down and say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is where we need to improve, just like all the coaches are doing with everybody on the team today. Of just saying, okay, leaving, hey, they're going away, they're getting away for the bye, which is well deserved by the players. But just telling everybody, hey, there's a couple things everyone needs to work on to help us get better moving forward.
He said yesterday that he doesn't really intend to take a break during the bye. Is that wise, would you say?
Well, I mean, define what you mean not take a break. I mean, he's going to, get away from it, I'm sure. He's not going to be out there practicing doing certain things. So I think Cam is a competitor. Okay, he wants to be successful. He wants to be the best, and that's what you love about him is his work ethic. You know, we talked way back when after we drafted him how much time he spent in the building. Winning means something to him, and he's trying to do everything he possibly can to help this team win.
Where are you as far as his ability to impact the game? I don't fumble. As far as his
You almost
ability,
did,
his ability to impact the game, you know, with his legs. Because you saw him yesterday, he kind of
Yeah.
ran the pass, and then he picked up a first down running as well.
Yeah, that you know, you guys have asked that question, you know, all year long or the last couple of weeks with me. If there's an opportunity of win to take it, you know, you guys mentioned, you know, how Justin did that. You know, we watching what he did with the Chargers, the ability to take off and run, and I think that's part of learning the NFL game and learning, you know, staying ahead and down in distance to stay out of the second and third and longs. So I think that's something he did better this week at times. There's a couple of times he took off.
Do you think that's kind of like the next level of quarterbacking, like a part of him getting to that next level?
Well, I think it's just, yeah, I think it's part of him developing and understanding the game. Not that he didn't understand the game before, but just how it's getting a 4-yard run, you know, instead of forcing the ball and it's incomplete, how that helps you for the next down, regardless of what the down is or it's even field position. You know, having positive plays of just when you keep stacking up positive plays, you're just more efficient as an offense.
Jim, in the past game's probably been as nice a feature as there's been since you took over. How do you come out of a game after 2 big games where he's only targeted 3 times?
Well, there's a number of plays that you call that are designed that he might be the first guy in the progression and the coverage takes it away. Or there could be a pressure issue where all of a sudden you might see him on tape. It says, oh, look at him running scot-free down the middle of the field. Well, there's pressure and Cam's moving and can't get it to him. So there's a number of different things. You know, you've got a number of plays that are designed to go to a particular player, and because of whether it's coverage or it might be a breakdown, it just, you know, someone might lose up front or Cam may not see something.
Can't you come back from that stuff and say, we've got to dictate it, we've got to keep getting to him, we've got to make sure he's got catches in this game?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel like the receivers are creating enough separation to win consistently? And then do you feel like Cam is understanding how different NFL open is versus college open?
Well, I think with the receiver part of it, there's going to be a give and take in every game. There's certain times you look at it and you tell the players, hey, we've got to create separation on this play. There's not enough. Maybe it's a technique. You know, how is a DB playing certain things? But you got to say, hey, listen, this is the one-on-one matchup. You've got to win. You got to win at the line of scrimmage. It all starts with your release, and then depending on where the top of the route is, things like that. You're always going to look at. There's always going to be plays where you say, this, you know, you've got to do a better job here. And then I think with the quarterback play, it's a matter of understanding that being open in this league is a little bit different than college. Obviously, there's so many tight window throws, and that comes with experience and trust in the player that you're playing with and you're trying to throw to, or a certain defender that might be, who's covering that guy. You know, if it's a certain corner, there's always there is that, you know, he's one of the best in the business. So there's the anticipation that you got to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm going to trust that this guy's going to be at this spot, and you got to throw the ball to a spot. And that'll become with anticipation and reps with that player.
When your offense needs a yard, why isn't sneaking the ball with Cam your first consideration?
That's always a consideration. There's plenty of plays you have in your playbook, going to your game plan. Some weeks you use that, some weeks you don't.
With plenty of teams around the league, that is their go-to in that spot. Why is it not for you all?
We go in each week and say this is what we think is best to do in this situation.
So you are comfortable sneaking with Cam?
Yes.
How often have you guys called it since you've taken over?
I don't have the sneak. I don't have exact numbers in the whole year and things like that.
Do you feel like you've done it?
We got it in a plan. We can always do it.
In the plan, but have you used it?
No. In a game, we haven't used it in a game.
What good is it if you're using it in practice, if you're not using it in
Well, there's a
game?
number. Okay.
Of course, we're asking about a game.
Yeah.
I know every player's different, but you're hopeful you get a number of your players that have been out for a lengthy amount of time back, and how much should that help you second half of the season?
Well, I think, you know, the guys who are out are chomping the bit to get back out there. And I think you look at the guy, you know, the great thing, you see the game the other day and you look at it, you see Jeff and the guys, Arden, you see Bryce, you see Rid, you see the guys that aren't playing and how they're helping their team. They're chomping at the bit to get out there. So they're doing everything they can to get out there as soon as possible. So that'd be a huge boost if we get some of those guys back.
How will it work over the next 24 hours, Mike, relative to Chad and Mike with the trade deadline? Like, do they give you a heads up before? Did you just, they tell you after the fact, hey, we did this? What's that like?
No, there's constant communication on what's going on.
When you look at a guy like Draymond, who's probably got some value, but is he not also showing you that maybe he's got value for this team in the future as well? I mean, how tough is that decision? I know it's not necessarily yours, but I mean, he's got 4 sacks in 4 straight games. He looks like a guy who could help this team in the future.
Well, he's done a great job for us. You know, I'm very pleased with where he's at and what he's done. You just love the way he shows up every day, the way he works at practice, and it's not a surprise at all he's having the success that he's been having.
Was there any massive communication, Mike, that you were talking about? I just wanted to follow up. I guess, how does that prepare you for what's to come?
The communication?
Relative to the roster, yeah.
Well, yeah, we always, that's what you do from the beginning of the offseason program, as soon as the season's over, up through the entire season. This is what you do. There's constant communication on the roster every day of the season. You're always talking about, you know, things that could come up, who's inactive this week. There's injuries, you're always talking about your roster.
To follow up on yesterday, the explosives that you guys gave up, is that a miscommunication between the corner and the safety, or somewhere in those two? Because it was 2 similar type of concepts where, like, you had the flat and then you had the route over top there, and it seemed like Armour-Davis was kind of in the bind.
Yeah, there's certain things that happen, whether it's how deep you need to drop, who needs to fall off on somebody. We got to do a better job in those 2 situations you're talking about of, you know, everyone being on the same page and dropping off and being in the right spot either to break up the pass or make the quarterback move on his progression.
One of the
Mike,
messages you guys have had since the spring in this building was we have to eliminate the things that beat ourselves to give us a chance to win. How frustrating is it, one, that you beat yourself as much as you have in 9 games, but also yesterday, or maybe even back to Denver when they had 4 turnovers, that you haven't been able to take advantage of other teams beating themselves very much?
Well, that's one thing that was disappointing yesterday is the penalties that we had. You know, you look back the past 2 weeks, we had very few penalties, and then all of a sudden this week, you know, we had a number of penalties. So you gotta eliminate that. It's hard enough to, you know, have the success moving forward consistently and having the efficiency, but when you set yourself back 5 yards here, 10 yards here, or after a big return, the ball gets called back, things like that, it's tough to do that. And you always talk about capitalizing on turnovers that the defense creates or big plays in the kicking game, things like that, or a mistake that the opposing team might make. So that's something you talk about every week of, you know, making the most of every opportunity you have to, you know, to take advantage of those plays.
Mike, you've had 3 weeks now to kind of been a flurry since taking over. This bye week maybe finally give you a chance and the rest of this coaching staff to catch your breath, kind of retool a little bit, maybe make some changes that just haven't been able to maybe put into place at this point?
Well, I think every season, when you get to a bye week, depending on when it is, you you go back as coaches and you look at everything and kind of say, okay, where are we? Because it always falls at a different time of the year, depending on what year it is. And you look at things and say, okay, what are we doing well? What do we need to work on? Are there things that we've always had in game plans that you say, you know, why haven't we run these plays? Or there's certain, you always look at it to say, you know, what can we do better moving forward? And that's week in and week out when you play. But this is a great opportunity for us to sit down and say, okay, hey, look at all the little things we've done and say, okay, how do we clean these things up? How do we do these things better? And the same thing with the players. You ask the players, we talked this morning to say, okay, take a deep breath, get away from this. But I also want you to kind of think about the first part of the season and say, you know, how can you do your job a little bit better? You know, everyone in the organization, how do you do your job a little bit better to help us win the next football game we're going to play?
Johnny Hecker's net average last couple of weeks has been pretty poor. What you're thinking about the state of the punting game right now?
Well, I think, you know, he's been in this game a long time. He's one of the best in the business, and it's like any other player. There's going to be certain things from week to week that you say, hey, I need to do better. And he's just like everybody else, but I'm very happy with him.
And then we did mandatory OTAs, and we did camp, and we did preseason, and now we're back in another season, and we've already played another full college season. So I think definitely there's a aspect of fatigue, especially if you're a person that wants to put as much time as he possibly can into your craft, sometimes the fatigue sets in and maybe you need to do a little bit less. And so I think this is a good opportunity to, refresh.
Cam's pretty demanding, though. Is he gonna? I said Cam is pretty demanding. Is he going to let you get away?
Yeah, I mean, I think for him as well, like there's again like a sense of where you just need to take a little bit of time and refresh, because when you're not fully on mentally, you can't be fully on physically. So sometimes you do need to step away.
When you evaluate, I guess, yourself at the halfway point, what are some things that you feel like have gone well for you? What are some things you feel like you got to do better here second half of the season?
Yeah, I think definitely during the second half of the first half of the season, if that makes sense. I just need to stay in it more mentally. I think the fatigue definitely started setting into me, and it's where I started kind of having these concentration drops, which is something that I worked on a lot throughout camp and had a major improvement in that, and then just for it to not, show up. And so I think for me, I need to be better at managing, getting away from it more, if that makes sense. I think sometimes I put a lot into it, and I feel like I need to put more into it and more into it, and sometimes that has like diminishing returns. So I definitely need to do a better job of finding a balance there.
In the moment, what would you say are the concentration lapses? Are you turning out field too quick? Are you sensing contact? Just what is causing the concentration to maybe drop?
I don't know if there's anything to specifically pinpoint. I think it's more of like an overall thing, like a feeling of how you feel before the game, after the game, during the week, etc.
How do you feel like you've done in terms of creating separation, and what's been the biggest thing you found out in the difference between open in the NFL versus open in college?
I think I do a good job of creating separation. I think the biggest difference is your quarterbacks are good. And so it always feels like you're open because a lot of times they just throw a good ball, and a good ball beats good coverage every time. And so like maybe I'm not getting as open as I was in college, but I feel probably even more open than I was in college because it feels like the quarterback's so good.
In the screen game, there are times where you guys are asked to block for each other. What would you say is happening? Because it seems like these DBs are doing a good job of finding the football despite you guys keeping them away from it.
Which kind of screens are you?
Wide receiver screens, like
So like a bubble?
Stacked up, and like maybe it's you and Chim, you're stacked up, and you got a block, Chim catches it, or vice versa.
Yeah, okay. So I think for that, like bubbles and flats where we're blocking, it's kind of hard because we're not allowed to block down the field until they catch the ball. So you kind of have to figure out how to toe the line between making contact before the ball gets there and not getting blown up. Last week against Indy, I got a penalty for offensive pass interference on like a very similar play to the one that we had against the Chargers, where like instead of trying to catch the block, I was aggressive and I ended up getting called for it. So sometimes it's hard to figure out where you need to be on the side of that line, and so I don't know if I have a very good answer for that, because we could be more physical, but then maybe we end up getting more penalties. So it's a hard play to run in the NFL, I'll say.
How do you feel, I guess, I know mentally probably a grind, but physically, how do you feel maybe at this point where your college season, you'd probably be closer to being done?
Physically, I feel very good. I'm fortunate to have not had any injuries. And I think a lot of that's just luck, to be honest. But yeah, I feel great.
What do you think? What does the team want to get out of the second half of the season here? I mean, obviously you're in a hole. What do you hope to accomplish the second half?
I think the biggest part is kind of look at yourself individually and just do a little bit better. Try to do your job at a higher clip, and I think if everybody can do that, then the team will obviously take ourselves out of that rut. We obviously don't want to be in it, and so we're trying to go into every game and win.
How proud are you of how the rookie class has contributed so far?
Yeah, I think that the rookies have really done a great job. Obviously, Chim's been doing great on special teams and on offense. Gunner's been doing great on special teams and on offense. Marcus is now starting to play a lot more defense, which is something I think that, me personally, like I was like, yeah, like I know Marcus is going to end up being a starter for us because he's just a really good player. Cam has been doing a very good job. Like I'm very impressed by how well he manages all the shit that you have to know at quarterback. Like honestly, there's so much that you have to know. Like when we go in the meetings and they're talking to the whole offense and talking to Cam and they're saying, oh, if we get this front, then you have to check the protection of this and so on and so forth. If this is your can criteria for our run plays, blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of stuff on his plate, and I think he does a really good job of managing all that and still like being himself through all that. And so, again, I've been very impressed by all the rookies.
Yes, spoke to it there, but have you ever seen him down or discouraged, and how good of a job does he do of trying to lift guys up?
He does a great job. I think that's really like one of his big superpowers. Obviously, he's uber physically talented, but mentally, like, very, very consistent person mentally, which can be hard to do, especially when you're losing. When you're losing, sometimes those other traits show, but for him, there's none of that.
More? We're good?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Much as this one is?
For sure. I think it's very important for us to just get some time, reflect, study ourselves, see where we could be better, and come back refreshed and ready to improve. That's at least for me personally. That's how I'm looking at it.
Your name hasn't been abundantly in the trade rumors, but I mean, you're playing well, a veteran. How do you handle like this period of time where you don't know if there could be sudden change?
Yeah, it's very interesting, but I kind of just lean in on my faith. I just lean in on God and pray, and whatever His will is, let it be done. And that's kind of just the way I look at it. Because the moment you start thinking about all that other stuff, then you start to forget what the main thing is, which is just going out there and performing and trying to help this team win.
You guys have no Jeff, no Arden, no Gunny, but you still get 6 sacks yesterday, and really the pass rush has been coming on for weeks. Where is it coming from, and how proud are you of where you guys have gotten that thing?
I think it's just coming from, well, first off, obviously, huge shout out to Coach Rocker and Coach Travis. They do a good job harping on our rush lanes and us working together, and also just huge shout out to the guys in the room. I just think we all like each other. We all like playing with each other. We all know that we're talented. We have a talented group of guys. Obviously, Arden and Jeff and Femi, all are outstanding players. Jeff's playing at an all-pro level right now. But I think when you look at it, we believe in ourselves and we believe in the guys that we have in our room. And I think when you have a group of men that are able to come together, we're able to get things and come together and do it as one. Positive things happen, like this Sunday with the 6 sacks and a lot of pressures.
Travis, just curiosity, what does adding a second coach to the room helped this year? Is there a concrete thing that you can say that he's added as you guys have made it through the season?
Yeah, I just believe, Rock is awesome, man. Rock does such a great job, and him and Travis together, they just, it's like a yin and yang. Like they balance each other out. They're both very different, but both similar at the same time, and they bring a perfect balance to our room. Travis has been an amazing addition, and, I go to both of them for questions, and they both have sometimes different perspectives, but I think it's great because you could draw, whether who you are as a player, you could draw whatever fits you. You know what I mean? Whatever fits you in that way.
A lot of us who are kind of charged with figuring out what's gone on here, assess the roster and say they need more guys like you. You weren't super expensive. They found a guy to fill a job, and you've come here and done good work in your time. What do you feel like when you hear that?
I really appreciate that, I feel like, that's kind of just been my career if you followed me, right? I've always been the guy that just try to get the dirty work done, right? I'm not super flashy. I try not to be super flashy. I just try to just come in each and every day, put my head down and go to work. And just try to help the team win in whatever way they need me to, whether it's playing a 4 technique, whether it's playing a 5 technique, whether it's taking on a double team, whether it's rushing out of a 4 technique, which is not fun. If you guys don't know what that is, it's not easy or fun. But again, it's all about the betterment of the team, and I really appreciate that. And glory to God, I just got to keep on doing it. 8 more games left.
You're playing with, I guess, Jihad and Draymond for the first time. What has impressed you about the way those guys handle their work during the week and on Sundays?
I love Jihad and I love Dre. They both bring such a laid back, cool swagger, confident attitude about their work each and every day. But when they're on that field, it's all ball, it's all business. And I think when you have that in the room, because football is such an intense sport, football is such a grimy sport, when you have guys that are able to make it fun and relaxing, and you could crack a couple laughs and a couple jokes, it makes everyone not only bond together and get closer together, but also go out there and just ball. And they've done a phenomenal job. Jihad, I'm really happy for Jihad, man. He's playing unreal. I mean, 2.5 sacks, right? Dre, 1.5. Those guys are playing with their hair's on fire, and I'm really happy for them both.
You've been through You've been through a season like this before. What do you tell young guys that kind of may be discouraged and with how things are going about trying to look for better days?
Yeah, I know it sounds super cliche, but I always tell them, tough times don't last. Tough people do, and you just got to keep on chopping wood and carrying water, because the tide will turn, and when it does, all of the negative things and all of the hard times, those things will shape you to become not better football player, but not only a better football player, but a better man, and that essentially will make you a better football player because of those trials and tribulations. That's what I stress, at least to the young guys, as much as I can when they ask.
What should this team's goal be the last 8 games?
Oh, to win. That's always the goal, and to improve, plain and simple. We're 7 points away last game. I said it, I believe, yesterday. We're a couple plays away. I just watched the film. We had 6 sacks. We could have had 12. I missed a sack. I had a sack that I could have had. We missed 12. So that's what I'm saying. There's just 1 or 2 plays away from changing that game and winning it. So that's the plan. The plan is to win, and we have the right men for the job.
When you guys look back at the 99-yard drive, the turning point, were there things that stood out that maybe you could have fixed, or was it just then execute?
100%. That kind of goes back to what I was saying about, I think that's more of a Mike question. I don't think I'll answer that question because, but yeah, there are things that obviously that, there are 3 or 4 plays that, we get back that, we're here singing a different tone or singing a different song right now. So, yeah, but I just think that's more so of a head coach question or a DC question.
A little bigger picture question. How much is wrapping up practice during the week, during the season? Is it, we've seen around the league some, guys just not being able to bring guys down and wrapping up. So around here, how much is that maybe practiced? Or if there's a game with some missed tackles, does it suddenly get on the schedule? How's it been going on around here?
Oh, it's always been an emphasis. Tackling's always been a big thing for us. I feel like Coach Denard Wilson emphasizes that all the time. And I feel like that's kind of just the staple and the base of who we are as a team, right? Being physical, tough, with attitude, grit, and tackling. That's a big thing. Denard really prides himself on that.
Appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.